Hey, hey, friends. Okay, welcome, welcome. So first of all, notice that my Christmas tree is still up. Cat, I have a running joke. I'm keeping my Christmas tree up as long as possible.
Wow.
So
Yeah, this is
so
record time. We're in mid-January. I'm
I had
impressed.
I announced it at the front of the start of the podcast because it's like my background on YouTube. But but today I'm in a small little office. I got a little office space so that when I interview people like the wonderful Cat Sigblad, I don't have chickens and Maverick interrupting me all the time. So this is my new office space if you're watching on YouTube. Today I'm interviewing Cat. Well, not interviewing. We're having a dialogue. Cat hosts the Moms Off the Record podcast. And she and I have done a couple of interviews together, and I've been on hers. She's been on mine. If you are on Instagram, you see our cross posts. And we are starting a little series here. So Kat and I have very robust conversations off air about what the hell happened to parenting. And so we want to do a series of this is going to be messy, you guys. None of this is prescriptive. It may not be exactly your situation. We're trying to figure out how things got so drastically different between Gen X and Millennial. And we're talking rough here, okay? So I am solidly Gen X, 57, born in 1968. Kat, you are
I am 35, born in 1990, so almost smack dab in the middle of being a millennial. We call us middle-aged. I think it's middle-aged millennials. Yeah.
okay. And we were just commenting that like I could legit be her mother. So there is a generational thing there. And so Pascal is going to be 20 in June and your kids are
1.5 and 3.5.
okay. And so what we're trying to do is number one, trying to personally bridge the gap in my work because more and more I'm feeling older and not out of touch because I have such a robust conversation with so many moms. But I am feeling like I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around some things because I'm like, for example, I did a post on Instagram about cooking and having your kid like beside you and people are like, no, my kid's at my ass, my kid's grabbing at my thing, no, I can't do that. And I need, it was a poll for needing screen time, and I was like, so somebody said, well, what did you do with Pascal? We didn't have personal devices yet. We didn't have phones, we didn't have iPads, and we did have television, but we had a big TV in the living room. Like it was Curious George, maybe it was PBS. It was, but that was kind of only marketing to kids, really. And um, so I wanted to explore, like, I don't ever want to be put in a position in my job to be like, dude, relax. It's not that hard. but, but sometimes I feel like that. And so Kat and I are going to explore what we have been talking about, which is what changed so radically. And she's coming at it because she's surrounded by millennial moms. I'm surrounded by Gen X moms. And I think to kick it off, I think parenting started to get screwed up with Gen X, to be fair, because I think we were the first generation to really recognize that we were neglected. We love to tell you how we were neglected. There was a commercial that said, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? Like our parents needed to be reminded they had kids. So there was definitely some benign neglect that happened. And, one of the funnest things of watching Stranger Things with Pascal is he'll be like, was it really like that? I was like, dude, we could have been fighting like an evil force in an underground thing. Like, yes, it could have. And our mother would have said, like, don't bring home dead bodies.
How
And
times
so,
have changed.
right. And no, I don't think, of course, they had their faults, but I think we were the ones who started suffocating parenting. I think we started not wanting our kids to feel that neglect. So we started the overparenting. I do think Gen X, just because we're difficult, we're the neglected generation, I do think a lot of people course corrected. I know for myself, I did. I course corrected. I found Lenore Skenazy. I found free range parenting, and I had to like pull myself consciously like back. And that's why I've always said my work is new school meets old school because we got to keep some of what the boomers did. They raised me, and look at me. Hey.
That's right. You're not too bad.
With 25 years of therapy. So, we have to kind of give credit where credit is due. And then, but then I think the millennials, we've all been carving a new path with
Oh, yeah.
parenting, right? Because for years and years and years, and Kat, I'm sorry, I'm going to give you a chance to speak. I swear.
No, no, you're fine.
I was just like, listen, literally, I was watching. Did you watch Stranger Things?
I watched like a couple episodes almost a decade ago. I
Yeah.
couldn't get that into it. I know it's so popular. I'm not like a huge sci-fi fantasy person. I'm like, it has to really have happened in real life for me to be into it. I
Yeah.
know, kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
lame. But
No, no,
I know
no.
the gist high level.
Yeah. Well, the finale, of course, was New Year's Eve, and
Yeah.
they suffice it to say, the core mom ended up chopping the head off the evil monster,
Oh,
and so
fantastic.
like, and it was awesome. And then comments online because of course I unlocked the Instagram algorithm for Stranger Things, and everybody's like, "That's for millennial moms," and I was like, "Are you people high? That Joyce Byers was a boomer." The mom was a boomer. The kids in Stranger Things are 3 years younger than me, the characters,
Right.
and so I was like, "No, she was a boomer," and it just made me think. So it made me think of these things where like, um, uh we put the boomers down. We throw everything away from the boomers, but my mother was clueless. My mother, she really was clueless. She made a lot of mistakes, especially in my teen years. And if you were to take
Mhm.
my view of it, I was like, my mother was emotionally absent. She didn't know what was going on. It was easy to hoodwink her at times. But it also, my mother would have chopped the head off of any monster. Like she would have. Like if you came after her kid, she was crazy. But then when she died in 2024, we were going through pictures, and there was a set of years. There was like 2 years of pictures that I didn't recognize the woman in the picture. I was like,
Wow.
I don't know who this woman is. And my mother was in a highly abusive marriage.
Mm.
She was 24 years old and she had 3 kids, her own home and marriage, never college educated, barely left her hometown, no internet. What skills did we think this woman had? Like seriously. And so could we talk about intention versus impact, and I always say like if the impact, yeah, my teen years were hard because she was not emotionally present.
Mm.
However, as an adult, I look back and I was like, those pictures, you know why I don't recognize her, Cat? She was in love. She was in love. She
Mm.
was probably getting good sex for the first time in her life. She was like
Good for
happy,
her.
and so she wasn't there for us, but like I can see like, oh my God, she was 33 in these pictures that I don't recognize.
Wow.
And so I feel like we have to give some slack, right? To like
Yes.
to like the
Yes.
boomers didn't have internet. They only relied on what their parents told them. Their doctors told them to spank us.
Yeah.
So it's like this weird cultural thing. And people forget that. And so now Gen X comes along, we start getting wisps. We all got therapy. A lot of us got therapy anyway. And we started to realize the impact of parenting. Like these are things my mother never questioned.
Mhm.
She didn't question the impact of her parenting. You kept a kid alive.
Dr.
That was
Spock,
that
right?
was your basic thing. Keep your kid alive. Well, Dr. Spock actually was the first guy to come along and say, "I think kids might have feelings."
Okay, so he was one of the good ones. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
know my
yeah.
mom has spoken about him before, and I was like, what is this, a mainstream doc we're talking
Yeah.
about? Okay, so he
He
was
was
decent.
shunned, and he was shunned. Yeah, because people were like, "No, kids should be, ignored, children should be spanked." Yeah. He
Seen and
was
not heard, I've heard that one.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and so I think, like, Gen X started we started to have the notion. Now then millennials come along, now you guys got the internet. So
Oh, yeah.
now you've got opinions and people in your ear, tons of exposure to experts, and now social media starts to take off. So,
Yes.
all right, you're
Yep.
up. I talked
Okay.
enough.
Okay, so I like you and I have spoken about how I feel like I am a Gen X mom, but stuck in a millennial reality. And there's a
Okay.
lot of things I want to do that I know you always talk about on your podcast that I will try to implement. But the reality of our circumstances is such where it is just difficult. And I think one of these key elements is this we can explore risk aversion and this obsession or fear with being unsafe or getting hurt.
Yes.
Right. And we have to think this is very new. This is a very modern phenomenon. I like to think of it as it's a rite of passage in childhood that if a child is let to, if they're just running wild and free, child led play, they will inevitably fall down and get hurt. Maybe they're going to break some bones. Maybe someone will be mean to them on the playground. And the problem is, we millennial moms, we are doing too much. So not only is this hurting kids by ironically keeping them too safe. I know, taboo that I said that they're too safe. They're not even allowed to
Oh,
get a
no, the
scrape or a
research is
bruise,
clear. The
right?
research is clear. They're messed up.
Yes,
We've got a 2-year wait
they're
for
delicate.
psychiatric care for toddlers.
I've never
Like,
heard of this.
it's
It's
nuts.
disturbing. So it's okay. There's a physical safety element, and I'll tell you my observations as a mom who's kind of like I said, I'm pretty Gen X and a millennial body. I'll tell you my crazy observations on the playground, and it's we don't want anyone getting physically hurt, but also emotionally and socially hurt. So I'm scared of the implications of this long term for our kids. As someone who wants to raise strong, resilient children, this does alarm me. I'll give you some recent examples. I was on the playground. There must have been a girl about Julian's age, like 3.5 years old, walking, talking full on paragraphs. And look, I know all parents are well intentioned, right? But the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Maybe that's a little bit harsh. Maybe
I think we I
maybe
think we
we
should
edit
make a
that out. Let's edit
right.
that
No,
out.
no, no. I think we should make a caveat that one thing as I've gotten older, one thing I really, really maintain is every mom is doing her very best. Every
Yes.
mom has the best intentions. And I worked with the dregs of society, like honestly, in social work in San Francisco. And even those moms, limited capacity, that's the problem. Very
Right.
limited, even intellectual capacity, that kind of thing, mental capacity. But I do really believe that every mom, at least in our circles, wants the very best for their kids.
I do too, and I do want to
Yeah.
say that for the record. So let me reframe this. With the best intentions and with love, this is what I mean is there's too much helicoptering on the playground. So I
Mhm.
know it's coming from a good place, it's coming from a fear, but we maybe we don't need to hold our kid's hand who is, I mean, I'm talking about a totally able-bodied, fearless, fine, capable child as they're going down the slide. It may seem benign and harmless to tell, a child, don't go up here, don't do that, like saying no at the playground. But I do think there's implications to this. Like kids are going to be afraid to just literally walk up to a slide. So I mean, I guess I do something that's kind of radical. Like when my kids are around a year and a half old, I like to push them gently outside of their bubble on the playground. So I literally take steps farther and farther and farther back. So I'm still there to spot them. And I'll make an analogy to when I was in gymnastics as a young girl. My dad was a pretty professional gymnast, actually, college level. So I just step farther and farther and farther back, and I actually welcome them like to fall and mess up, knowing I'm there to spot them. So if they're falling, a great height, I will catch them and it's okay. So instead of saying, like, don't jump there, don't go on that, no, I want you to try these things. I started gymnastics when I was about 3 years old, and I only did it till I was 11. So it was never that big of a deal. But I just remember in gymnastics class, like, the only way you're going to progress is if you consistently take risks. But you
Mhm.
can't just go from crawling to doing back handsprings, right? There's steps in between. So, how are we going to expect our children to take risks like walking up to another child and introducing themselves? How do they go from just toddling on the playground to doing the monkey bars on their own or like, climbing up 50 steps to go down a tall slide? It doesn't magically happen overnight. Yeah, sure it can. But we need to be the ones, they're looking up to us. We need to be the ones to tell them, like, you can do it. And I think that welcoming physical risk does directly translate into also being open to taking social and emotional risk. Why does this matter? Because it's going to raise resilient children. So, what are we doing when we're so fearful of our kids getting a bruise or a scrape? It's like, this is taboo. I've seen it where, people ask me with my kids and I let them run around and go crazy. They're like, oh no, like what happened? And it's just a little scrape or a bruise. And I'm like, they're kids being kids. It's not me being a bad mom. I am just letting them be kids. And
Oh, oh, oh,
you know
oh,
what I
let's
mean?
stop right there. Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
See, because you've been infected.
Tell me.
It's not me being a bad mom. That wouldn't have never occurred to any other parent prior to your
Exactly.
generation. So
Yeah.
so that's the thing, right? Is somehow
Yeah.
we've been indoctrinated if your kid falls. Dude, listen, when I went to school, by 4th grade, if you didn't have a cast, you were out there hammering a bone. You were trying to break your own bone because like you were diving off of garages because a cast was like a status symbol.
Yeah.
And it was the old plastic cast, everybody signed it. And like you couldn't wait to get a cast. So you were purposely throwing yourself at life because you were like, how can I break something? So then when Pascal was little,
Yeah.
then he was risk adverse, like to the point. Like
Mm.
I'd have to tell other moms, please stop telling my child to be careful. Please stop it. Like I'm trying to get him. I had to like kick him out of the and I would always just say, no, I'm not. No, you're safe. You're doing
Yeah.
it. And I always had the rule, you don't lift a kid higher. You don't lift a kid. They go up and then they can come down. If you lift a kid up on that 50-foot slide, they don't know how to, they don't know how to navigate down. And he'd
Yes.
say, I want to go higher. And I was like, well, you're the one that's being chicken, not me. I don't. But also, literally, if you think about it, I didn't think I was a bad mom by be like, stop being a pussy. Climb
Right.
up the damn slide and like I didn't mind like and he's clearly a good kid, but I didn't destroy his ego. I didn't destroy his self-esteem because I said I probably didn't say pussy, but stop being a baby, stop being something. I was like, you can do this, you know? And
Yes.
so I also think that's where some of the coddling comes in. But I think too, like you said, the biggest problem though, like I'm picturing the mom, obviously, guys, this depends on age, but if you're holding
Yes.
your kid's hand to go down a slide, which by the way is like your first altered consciousness, right? Is like,
Yeah.
boom, going down slides and then spinning, right? Is the other way to alter your consciousness. But I feel like then we're going to turn around and complain that our kids are up our ass, but you're not letting
Yes.
them make a move without your supervision. So we're training our kids to do the thing we're complaining about.
Bingo. Yeah, and also playground time. So this is obviously going to be so case dependent. Like, were you with your kid all day and now you're getting some outdoors time? You want them to interact with other kids. Playground time it's traditionally been for kids to interact and play together. But now we have moms who are, I think they're so scared of maybe their kid being mean, another kid being mean to their kid, the optics of it, and also their kid getting hurt. So now we have this burnt out culture of moms who they think they're getting a break because they're taking their kids to the playground. And what I would love to do is just sit on the bench with moms. I can do that with some moms, but with others, it's like they are right on top of their kids. So kids look to us, right? They want to do what we do, not what we say. We are up their asses on the playground, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then, of
yeah.
course, they're going to be on up our asses too. But Jamie, there's another interesting component to this. We all know finances have been tight for a multitude of reasons. And
Sure,
also, we live in an even more litigious society now than ever. I'll give you a
sure.
couple examples. At some of these, like indoor play gyms, which are uber popular, especially in the burbs, we were at a birthday party recently. There's some really, simple baby indoor slides, and there's a big warning sign next to it that says, and there's cameras. They're watching you from the cameras. If your child walks up a slide, you will be asked to leave. To leave. I'm like, you think my child's going to get hurt walking up that little baby slide? My kid's walking up the 50-foot slide outdoors without the
Right.
covering
Right,
on
right,
top. And here's the truth. Businesses, any establishment is terrified of a lawsuit.
right.
And then outside of the litigious aspect, parents, I think, are actually sometimes more scared, like, how much will this cost me if I need to put a cast on my kid? It's not like the 90s. When I was in school, every single quarter there was someone with a cast on their arm or leg. Now, some schools don't even have monkey bars. When my brother was 8 years old, he was on the monkey bars, he fell down, broke his arm. My mom wasn't in a frenzy or a panic. Yes, we come from a medical background too, but it's just like, duh, you take your kid to urgent care. They're not getting their arm amputated. It will heal. But now I think this is so foreign to moms to have a broken arm. I do think that they would absorb it and be like, this is a personal failure. This was because of me. I'm negligent. And this is what feeds into the millennial mom burnout and the mom guilt as well. All of it.
Okay, so I have to tell you, well, first of all, I broke my arm on a monkey bar, and in 2021, at the end of the monkey bars in the Spartan race, that's how I blew out my whole knee.
Wow.
so,
Oh
so
my
monkey
God.
bars, and I would still put monkey bars in my yard. So let me tell, but just for generational comparison. So, we were at my aunt's house. My mom had to do something. It was very rare that we stayed there. My aunt let us go to the playground, which crossed two busy intersections, just the kids. She gave us. Listen, she put peanut butter and jelly in wax paper because if you put the wax paper on a hot metal slide, it would grease it so we could go down faster. So you got shot out faster, right?
I love
Like
your aunt.
stellar parenting here. And so I was halfway on the monkey bars and I got stuck and I was afraid to fall. So my sister said she would help me. She grabbed me, but she grabbed me by the front. So
Mm.
her arms were around my calves. And what happened when I let go is my knees bent. So I fell down and there was an exposed water like a water pipe cover.
Oh
So
my
my
God.
elbow hit the water pipe. So I run home by myself screaming. My aunt calls my mom. Well, no, my mom just she couldn't have called my mom. We didn't have cell phones. My mom was like on running an errand. My mom came back and
Okay.
I'm crying hysterically. And my mom's like, okay, just calm down. We're getting to the hospital. And then I was like, but it's Kathy's fault. My sister, I'm saying it's her fault because like in my mind, it's her fault. My mother's like, shut up. It is not your sister's fault. And like, that's what I got for breaking it on. Shut up. So
Right, and that's what made you who you are today, like, you're so resilient, you can take anything, you're not uber sensitive and, hyper analyzing interactions in your head. Like, look at you, you're a businesswoman, you're a go-getter because of these normal, parental interactions you had, where not everything is the big deal and the end of the world.
I think Gen X, I think because we were raised with this like benign neglect, I think we do have that in the back of our heads. But I also think as a whole, of course, I'm not speaking for everybody, but as a whole, I think don't worry about it. Like, okay, so
Yeah.
my brother came over my house and we were talking about Stranger Things and Pascal just loves to, ask about these things. And I said, dude, my brother and I both have a scar on our hands. Okay. In school, you erased your own skin to the point of having a hole in your hand to prove you weren't a fag. And at the time, fag wasn't a derog. It wasn't a slur against gay people. It
Right.
meant you were weak. You were a pussy, right?
Yeah.
So to prove you weren't a pussy, you erased your skin until it bled, and I have a scar. So
Your battle wounds.
and so I'm like, we were self-inflicted. I forget what. Oh, we're resilient. I mean, so I think no. So I
Yeah.
think we have a thing like where we now, when I tell that story, people are like, "Oh, you're not a fag," and I was like, it wasn't the same thing back then, and it wasn't like I think we just let things go, and it's not so
Yes.
important anymore. Um,
Yes.
but also, you bring up a good point about finances. Even I want to bring up something. So my niece fell one time, and my brother, on his way to the emergency room, called me and said, "Will you come with me?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Mm.
why? Like, you were grown up." He was like, "'Cause I'm going to get questioned. And I need a
Wow.
female with me." And I
Oh
was
my
like, "What?" And he
god.
said, "It's happened before." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And so if you go in as a dad, and even as a mom, if you go in with an injury, you're going to be pulled aside and questioned. And that's again the nanny state, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
Like, we're not giving parents any leeway. Um, you also, like, who knows, you could be filmed at any time and put on YouTube as the worst mom in America. So I think these are like really big things. But one thing I feel like we've lost, I want to go back to the playground. I feel like the playground should be for kids. Of course,
yes.
if you're going with a 1-year-old to like 18-month-old who needs actual help
Yeah.
navigating, of course. My big secret was find the little girl who doesn't have enough dolls, because there's always one at the playground who wants to mother your child. And
Yes.
I'd be like, "Honey, you don't have to do that." And she was like, "No, no, no, I'm having fun with him." And so like that's awesome.
Yes.
But one thing, a lot of these things, you guys, as we're talking, we're kind of just pointing out things without, there aren't a whole lot of hard solutions for these. But one thing I did with other moms at the playground is I made sure that anybody who was there at any given time, I was like, I can't have my eye on my kid at all times. If my kid's being a jerk, you just let me know. Or you're more than welcome to holler at him to stop. And then it
That's
opened it, and they would be
awesome.
like, "Oh, me too," because I think we're all like on guard. I remember feeling that way. Like, I gotta watch. I gotta watch. I wasn't so chill. Like, I got chiller as
Yeah.
I became more Gen X parent as he got older. But I remember that, like, oh my God, I gotta be the best mom. But I realized if I opened the conversation of like community parenting, right? We talk about
Right.
the village and community, and it used to be we had a consensus anybody could reprimand your kid if your kid was being an asshole, and now we can't,
Yep.
right? Now it's like, and then you don't know how to, there's the mean girl mom at the park, and you're like, well, she never sees her kid being a jerk, so I'm just going to subtly watch my kid and take my kid out. Like, we're trying to navigate, and that's bullshit. Like, it's hard when you have shitty other parents, but
Yes.
I think in general, like, I would always tell, like, I'd be like, as soon as we got to the playground, if there were other moms, I'm like, hey, listen, my kid's going to be the one going up the slide, so as long as nobody's at the top, like, I don't care. I'm going to try to leave them alone. And I would try to give moms permission to let go so we could just sit and chat or whatever.
Yes, I do try to lead by example too. Like, I'll do something similar, and around other moms, I'll encourage Julie and I'll say, "Why don't you show me how fast you can run up that slide?" And they'll do like a double take. Like, did she just tell her son to run up the slide? Like, okay. But I did something radical. I'm almost afraid to even share it here, but I do feel like it would
Ugh!
be important context for your listeners. I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate and shame for this, but this is where discernment comes into play. And I don't think any listener should do this just because I said it. And I know that they wouldn't anyway. You have to know where you live, your surroundings, like how safe is the playground and the parking lot.
Mhm.
Can you sprint from where you are in the playground directly to the parking lot, or do you have to cross the street? I factored all of this in. My daughter is a very, very light sleeper. Nap time is precious. And often when she needs to nap, it would be time for my son to get his sillies out at the playground. It's hard to coordinate with two toddlers. So she often falls asleep in
Listen
the
to
car for her
you
nap.
prefacing, just
I know.
say
Just say
it.
the damn thing. Well,
We
because
wanna
it's pretty shocking.
hear.
It's shocking. All right. She fell asleep in the car, right? And I knew that this nap would be an hour and a half. And now we're at the playground. I can't have my son, who's 3 years old, falling asleep. It's his playground time. What did I do? I guess most millennial moms would have taken their kid out, put him in the stroller, woken them up. Nope, I'm not going to risk waking her up. I rolled the windows down. I left her in the car. I was watching her the whole time. I was in the playground. She was technically in the car alone. And I was meeting up with a mom friend who had a son who was in my son's preschool. And I told her straight up, I said, I want to let you know, we'll talk. I'm going to keep my eye on the car the entire time.
Mhm.
And I left the windows down because I know when my daughter wakes up, she's loud. So, and that's what happened. I was able to enjoy the playground. I didn't have to
Mhm.
wake up my daughter. Would I do this in New York City? No. Did I feel comfortable in my little suburb in a safe neighborhood? Yes. So in 2025, I left my 1-year-old daughter in the car alone and I was 30 feet away. I left the windows down. She was safe and she was totally happy with her nap for an hour and a half. And I got to enjoy a coffee and conversation with this mom while our kids were playing. So that is an example of me trying to do something of yesteryear, which is extremely taboo, maybe if not a misdemeanor, to leave your kid in a car
No, it's not.
alone.
So, well, you have to check your state laws. So, this is wild because this podcast will be released either directly after. I did a podcast about getting your kids involved in local government. Pascal literally killed a bill in Congress by himself to have that right. That is
So
parental
cool.
discernment, and
Yes.
to be able to leave your kid in the car for whatever time. And this actually, we were in, it was a House committee, and we sat around a round table, and the senators just, I mean, all the House representatives were so thrilled to have a kid testifying, and he was going up against people who wanted to fight and make it a law that you couldn't keep your kid in the car alone even for a second at the gas pump, so you
Yes.
can go in and get and pay for gas. And so Pascal had all these stats about deaths. The amount of deaths in parking lots are 2,800 a year of kids in parking lots, and the average death of kids in cars at the time was like 8 per year. And he was like,
Wow.
"This isn't a contest. Leave your kid in the car. Like, you're safer in
Yes.
the car." And so, but there was what was really fun is that the House representatives were like coming. We sat and talked for 3 hours about all these various situations. Your kid's napping, they're terrible sleepers. Your exact scenario: your kid's got a soccer game 100 yards away. Can you leave your kid? And so, but it comes down to parental discernment. And like you said, you're factoring in. You live in a small town, and that's me. Like, Pascal was little in Providence. Providence is a city, but Providence is friendly and it's college.
Mm.
The biggest danger was cell phones and being around college kids because they never, the erratic driving would have been.
Yeah.
But my kid still needed to learn how to ride a bike. So I taught him how to ride and look for cars coming out of a driveway. I mean, there's driveways every 50 feet. And then he, at a pretty young age by today's standards, the playground and his school was a mile away, an exact mile, but no crossing of streets. He just could go on our sidewalk, take a right hand, be on the right hand side. And I said, "You got to start going by yourself." And
Yeah.
he did, and he would walk to school. Again, no major thoroughfares. But the thing about when we take these risks, yes, oh my God, what if something happens? But this is the problem, is we have this illusion that we can keep our kids safe. One of my good friends, her sister got killed, a drunk driver. She
Mm.
was walking down the street holding her son's hand. She got killed. He didn't get a scratch. So,
Jeez.
like, Okay, just but that like freaky things happen. And one of the things, a person in our online community was like really, really distraught because she got her daughter's ears pierced and she went to a good piercing place, like a really good piercing place, did all her due diligence, and then the kid got hand, foot, and mouth, like, right around
Mm.
the same time, and this kid ended up with MRSA, she ended up with a huge infection, the mom was, like,
Ah,
riddled with guilt, and I said, she ended up being fine, the antibiotics helped everything, she's fine, but the I said to the mom, I was like, "But this is a thing, like, you're riddled with guilt that you should have done something different. You did what was normal to do. You didn't go to
yes.
Claire's, you didn't go to a mall, you went to a nice piercing place." I said, "And the illusion that we can keep our kids safe 100% is the thing that's going to drive us crazy." Because for us parents, that is that is to me equivalent to germs. So I know myself and I have the potential to be a germaphobe. I
Mm.
could take it to the nth degree because I take everything to the nth degree. And so, um, what I lick doorknobs now. Because I have to go the opposite direction, right? Like I
That's the
can't
antidote
if I
for you.
start if I start with the hand sanitizer, I will go cuckoo, and I know that. And I think with, like, germs and safety, we have it's a te it's, what do I wanna say? It only gets worse. There's never gonna be a point unless you put your kid in a bubble, in a closet, all day, like, your house still could burn down. Like, there's nothing you like, accidents happen on the daily, and I really this has gotten worse over time, but COVID sealed the deal for this because this bullshit that no one was supposed to get sick,
Oh, yeah.
no deaths from a respiratory illness in a population that's 93% are metabolically unwell. Like this really drove people crazy. The
Yeah.
idea that we could somehow never get sick. And I was working with a client at the time, her kid had mast cell. They hold up. I mean, they
Mm.
hold up with bleach and Lysol. They got their groceries delivered. The grocery sat outside for 3 days, bleached everything down. They did everything. The whole family caught COVID because respiratory viruses are fucking tricky, right? And
Yeah.
so this but that what moms, what I want you to hear is that you never get to a point where you say it's safe. It's safe. And
No.
so what happens is you build your anxiety because now you're going to look for it all the time. Is this safe? Is this safe? Is this safe? Is this safe?
Yeah, you can't ever really relax. And the thing is, thinking back to my time as a gymnast, I think that's what really actually helped me be a more chill mom is seeing like, wow, there's young kids taking really big risks in a safe way because they have people spotting them, they have coaches spotting them. But you have to take risks every day if you want to progress. There's no
Yeah.
option. And I like to apply that to life. Like, if you refuse to take a risk, you're simply not going to progress. And then there's no more gymnastics. You can just be in the little kids class your entire life if you want. But I don't want my kids to live small and weak and scared. So, other things I do to kind of just chill out myself, because if you're always vigilant, your cortisol's always going to spike. You can't relax as a mom. And then that risk aversion, mentality you have is going to make your kids a little bit more anxious. I want my kids
A
to
little
always
bit.
feel a lot bit.
We have to
A
talk because I went
lot.
down a rabbit hole recently. So CPTSD, right? Like
Yeah.
complex. That a low grade of that can exist when so check it out. Hypervigilance in the two meanings of the words. So you're hypervigilant with your kid, that's going to drive you insane. That's actually going to give you trauma.
Mm.
And being watched constantly and being monitored constantly is going to give your kid trauma. So I hate the word trauma. We overuse the word
Yep.
trauma. I hate when we use it in conjunction with kids, especially with moms who are like using it because their kid had a big reaction. Like, "Oh, they're traumatized." No, they're not. That's not trauma. But I found it interesting that, like, the one thing that we're all doing is causing trauma to both of us.
The irony, right, and so we wanna be so trauma-informed and break cycles, yet we are self-inducing trauma for no reason, there's no benefit. So I have a toddler tower. Oh, I wish you could see it right now, but it's over there, whatever, it's just your typical toddler tower. And I'm very child led with it. So I wait and see when my kids will start climbing up it on their own. I feel like there's a lot of parents out there, their first reaction might be to say, like, don't climb up, or like, let me move you. I'm like, no, I actually want you to help me as soon as possible in the kitchen. It's going to make my life easier. I'm very selfish. How can I make my life easier in the kitchen? I need you
Mhm.
to be able to comfortably climb up on this thing on your own. And then this is where the risk taking comes in. I will give Julian, I don't have any of the safety carrot peelers. I'm like, no, you're getting the real thing. If these Inuit kids can do it, you can do it. A child is a child is a child. Why would I give you the fake plastic one? We're not doing plastic. We're using real metal knives. I will show you the right way. And another hot topic is like, yeah, I will let him, like yesterday, we were making a homemade bolognese dish. I let him right in front of the stove with his toddler tower. So when he says, Mommy, I want to help you make pasta, because we've been doing this since he was like a year old. Now he's 3.5. He knows the drill. You're not going to be entertained by the TV, so I can be more efficient. We make messes, we clean them up as a family.
Yep.
And we take risks every single day in this house and outside. So I'm like, yep, here's the rules. You hold the handle like this, you hold the spatula, whatever, the spoon like this, and you don't touch that. I will hold his hand like this. I'm going to put it right by, but I'm not going to let him touch it. Do you feel how hot that is? Okay. That's going to really hurt if you touch it. And hot take, but if he touches it for a quick second, it's not the end of the world.
No, there's a whole theory here. It's called touch the hot stove. And with the by the way, the stronger willed kid you have, the more you have to let them touch the stove.
Yeah.
And it's literally the stove, but it's also like a philosophy is you have to learn by doing. How many times I think we forget like how little our kids care about what we say. Oh, it's hot, it's going to burn you. Like, oh, it burns. Like you have to live by experience. Nobody can tell you something and you're going to learn it. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh, that's going to hurt or don't do that. Or, like how many people will tell you, oh, careful, that ice is slippery. Boom, you're on your ass. It doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
so it's so funny, Kat, because you're bringing up like actual events that happened. So I had a client years ago, the little girl was in a Montessori school and apple peeler.
Mm.
And she came home with a cut and it wasn't like horrible. It wasn't like she needed stitches or anything. And the dad flipped out. He was like, absolutely not. Cause the mom was like, she just needs practice. And he was like, no, I'm going to the school. And I was like, dude, you got to calm down. There is no magical age. I'm 57 and I still cut myself with a potato peeler because I'm rushing or I'm doing something. There's no magical age at which a kid learns something. And if we don't give them the tools and trust that they can do it, and trust that they can make a mistake and trust that they can hurt themselves. And that's part of learning. And it has no bearing on us as good parents or bad parents. I would venture to say it's good parents. When I see a kid with the bruised up, bloody knees, I'm like, that's solid parenting. I don't know what you're doing, but that's great.
Yes. Well, it's really interesting. So in the neighborhood I live in, there happens to be a lot of like depression era people. I mean, I live in Fort Myers, Florida, so it's like a little bit of God's waiting room situation. But I'm talking many, many, many decades older than I am. Like some of them even have great grandkids. And sometimes I'll be walking with my kids and they'll notice like, they have like a bruise or some cuts because I let them play wild and they look very like disturbed or upset by it. Like, and I wanted, and they're like, oh no, but what happened to her? Like, why is she bruised? And I wanted to be like, don't you remember your childhood?
Yeah, they don't.
What,
After a
what
certain age.
happened to that?
I'm afraid I'm
They
going to
don't.
get there at some point where I forget everything. That's why I'm having like you all because I'm like, am I just entering that crotchety era where I'm like, well, when I was raising my kid. Oh, yeah,
Right.
but don't forget, they're the generation that you need socks on all the time. They're trying to put a hat on your kid in June. Like, yeah.
It's so my daughter has worn socks 3 times in her life. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. And I don't even know if she has a pair of socks that fit her anymore. But we are in Florida. She takes them right off. And also, I want my babies to feel the floor and the ground underneath them and the grass. There is a lot of evidence, especially from the occupational therapy side of things, that
Yeah.
that's how their brain neurons develop. So I'm like, nah, we're not doing socks. And in fact, we're going to cross the street barefoot,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
My mom, she used to go crazy because I was like an outlier in the beginning. Wouldn't make him wear a coat, and she was like, "Jamie, he needs a coat," and I was like, "Who am I to say who's hot or cold? At any given
Right.
time, Mom, you're freezing and I'm boiling. Like it's not like that's an internal temperature. I'll bring the coat, so if he's freezing, I'm not going to let him freeze. But like if he's having a good time." Without a coat on, who am I to say the kid's cold? Like, and she
So
would be
true.
like, she always came around, but she was like, "Oh my God, you parents today." But I don't know.
Yeah, and every generation will have their shtick and their stereotypes. But it's interesting with risk aversion. When I grew up in the 90s, it was very normal to have play dates. I was just thinking about this morning before our conversation. Wow, I had so many fun play dates. And the parents would take turns. Sometimes my mom would host, one of my friends at our house and vice versa. Sometimes there were sleepovers, which now I know there's all this controversy. We're not supposed to have sleepovers anymore. I do acknowledge bad things can happen there. But playdates, can we bring back playdates? Like, is it that maybe moms are working too much, so they're not actually able to adequately keep an eye on the kids during the day? Um, I just find that interesting too. Like, that's some nostalgia from the 90s where I'm not seeing playdates. I'm seeing a lot of scheduled activities, Ultimate Ninjas and Little Gym, all these
I
things.
think that's part of what happened though, right? Is like, and whether it's safety. Okay, I've been thinking about this. So I think one thing about activities, because I do remember this with Pascal, um, activities are low effort parenting, right? I'm doing a good thing for my kid, but I get to sit and scroll my phone or read a book or take a break, right? And that obviously I see the benefit. I think the problem with activities is when they take over. And I really think the bigger problem is if you both work outside the home or you're single and work outside the home and then come home to put your kid in an activity. And I understand why, but it's low effort parenting and it makes you look good. It keeps the kid occupied. I think a lot of people have their kids in activities because they don't have the balls to be strict with screen time. So they just don't want to do the work behind that. But I also think they it kind of to me it falls into that like safety thing, like it's corralled.
Mhm.
I don't have to do much. Somebody else is going to interfere if my kid's being a jerk or somebody's being a jerk. So I think Playdates had a bad run. I think because I forget, but people were making fun of them online. I remember that, and I was like,
Mm,
"What?" But just the name, like Playdates. Oh, we
yeah.
had Playdate. Oh, I know. It was in like response to we used to just go outside and knock on each other's doors, and now we have to schedule. That's what it was. But I
Okay.
think Playdates, like having a single kid, I always invited people over to my house because it just made parenting easier.
Yeah.
I could go cook a meal. Yeah, of course I had to interfere. I had to referee. I had to help, but it took a lot off my plate. So I would initiate, no, drop your kids off. It's fine. And
Yes.
if I need something, I'll let you know. And I do think, um, I think when we talk about making friends, like making friends on the playground, this ties into that whole village thing, right? That I talk about constantly. Somebody in my community said that they realized that asking somebody for a favor is actually the way in when you're struggling
Mm,
making mom friends, because we don't want, none of us are receivers anymore. We don't know how to receive. So if we offer something, people automatically say, I'm good. No, no, thank you. Right? We have some sort of weird pride that we can do it ourselves, and then we bitch online that we have to do it ourselves. And we were never meant to do it ourselves, but we can't get out of the loop. It's like
it's so
weird.
true.
Like we have to break these loops, you guys. We're creating the thing we are complaining about. But,
Yes.
uh, but she said she noticed if she asked somebody, "Hey, would it be possible for my kid to come to your house just for like 30 minutes? I have to run to Walgreens. I'll be right back." And the other mom's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then it opens the door to them being able to ask you for something. And that's where we get some reciprocal action going on. And I thought that was pretty astute, like
Yeah.
owning a vulnerability, being the one to need something first.
That is so true because I've tried some strategies in the past and hasn't really always been successful where it's like, okay, we're having fun at the playground or like the kids are friends at school. So then I'll just say, hey, if you want to just like drop off so and so at our house, we have, a gate in the back or a fence in the back. We have a swing. They can have a lot of fun. And I think what also could be happening is we're so individualistic. Like there's no more allo parenting really. Moms always feel like they have to. I think they're afraid of another mom maybe parenting their kid or like, oh, what if my kid causes trouble? What if my kid asks for this or that? Or like, how's the food? Like, it's all about my kid, my kid. But I have such fond memories. And we had normal screens in the mid 90s. Like, we got our first computer in 1995, but we're not hanging out on the computer. It was just normal, big box TVs, but we weren't like watching movies. It was
You
where there's
couldn't hang
one
out on the
box.
computer. AOL dial-up took 9 years.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, and we didn't get that till 99. But like I'm talking like peak mid 90s,
Mm.
my mom had one box and it was of fun dress up clothes, fake high heels and the princess hats and capes. That was like it. You had books, you had a box of dress up clothes, and we would literally make music videos and put on shows for our
Yeah.
parents. We were making full blown skits and movies out of thin air. And I think what worries me is now with all the snowplow and helicopter parenting and like moms directing their kids in different directions, I'm seeing a loss of that creativity and that spark. And
Oh,
kids are
yeah.
constantly like, I'm bored, I'm bored. But then moms are complaining, like, well, it's I have to entertain them. And I'm like, but why do you have to entertain them? I asked my mom, and my mom was born in 65. And I said, so what did you do growing up when you were bored with your parents? And she's the youngest of three. She had a brother born in 55 and a brother born in 59. She said, my mom gave us two options. You can either help me clean if you're bored, or you
Yep.
can go find something to do. And that's what I do with my kids too. It's like, okay, you're bored. You have these toys, these books, go do that, or help me cook,
Mhm.
you know?
I think somewhere along the line, I just brought up the whole word trauma. I think somewhere along the line, and maybe this is therapy culture, I'm not sure, but we started to not to fear our kids' discomfort. Like, my mother didn't care how much we said we were bored. Sh It wasn't her job. She just didn't see it as her job, and I know a lot of my audience will say, "Oh, I only have 1 kid, I have to." No, I had 1 kid, and there were certain things, of course, there's certain things, if you wanna play catch, you need a person, right? Like,
True.
but, and it's, I this whole idea that we should be children's playmates, especially with make believe, goes up my ass sideways because we live in the real world. We can never play pretend the way kids play pretend. And we shouldn't the idea though that like our kids might be in discomfort, and I promise you, your kid can belly ache for hours that they're bored. And I can promise you they're gonna turn their attention to something, even if it's an ant crawling across your floor. They'll find something, but you have to have the tolerance to let them just belly ache. And we again, this is such a cascade thing though, right? It's like
Yes.
we're overstimulated because we're checking our phone too much. We're ready to snap so that when our kids say I'm bored, it takes us to a limit which it really shouldn't. And
Mhm.
that's where I keep trying to come to, like, how are we so overstimulated? I'm on a tear about the phone cuz I think it's the phone. And I think even I've talked to a lot of people who have no social media, and they said still it's the phone because of, group texts, and because we're trying to do everything on the phone. And so you're
Yeah.
trying to sign your kid up for camp, you're trying to look for new shoes, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, then your kid interrupts you and you're already overstimulated. So now you're thrown over the edge, and I think we that's the amount of parenting, and I think it's millennials, I'm not blaming any one generation, but the current rage in parenting is to claim to want to have your child express all their feelings, but you don't want any of the bad ones, and you have no tolerance for the whining and "Help me, I'm bored, there's nothing to do, I hate this food." You have no tolerance for that. And so I don't know. I think it comes down to, and this is sort of my spiel, is I think I think parents are misinformed about parenting. And I know a lot of people are not even having kids anymore because they're like, "Oh no, all my friends do is bitch and moan." Like, that looks
Mhm.
not fun at all. I'm not in. And so I think we forgot that 0 to 6 is physically demanding. 0 to 6 is the govern. 0 to 6 should be chill as fuck. Get them good
It is
food, get them good
not.
sleep, and get out of the parenting hustle so you can slow it down a little and figure out your groove. Because if you're jumping into parenting, and again, it's wild, right? Because we've been thinking about parenting, we think of how we were parented. So when we have our kid, we think, I've been a parent forever. No, you haven't. You've been a parent for as long as your kid's been alive. And even if you have multiple kids, you've been a parent of your daughter for only that long. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, each kid is different. And I think if we gave more, what do I want to say? Figuring out how to be there for your kids instead. And I know people have to work, and I know work hours are later than they used to be. And I know emails are a fucking whole thing. Like, I get it, but what can you shut down so that you can put your blinders on of like, all right, right now I need sleep. I need to be well rested so I can work all day and have something left for my kid. Like, I'm not buying this that work should drain you so much that your kids get the shit version of you. That, I don't know. My mom worked a job and a half, and she was, again, she wasn't always, she was a little clueless about parenting stuff, but she also wasn't like overwhelmed. The thing that changed is the fucking phones. I
Yeah.
swear.
Well, and here's what's going to complicate it. There's a lot of moms who legitimately do have great online businesses and are self employed, and that requires them to be on their phone. So, this takes an incredible amount of discipline. I know you use Brick, I also use Brick. This takes an incredible amount of discipline to be able to just be on your phone for certain work blocks, ideally not around your kids, maybe when they're asleep, do your work stuff there. You're on the go. I get it. Like, this is the reality of like the modern millennial mom. You're doing something on your phone for work, your kids are asleep in the car. You're not allowed to just have them free range because, like, the other issue is kids could be free range and like playing outside because you had watchful neighbors. You had more stay-at-home moms,
Right, right.
right? Or at least part-time working moms. You had more of the elderly who are like peering outside of their window to make sure that the kids are still okay. Everyone's looking out for everyone. Now, it's every man and woman for him or herself. And people are literally looking down, texting while they're
Yeah,
driving.
yeah.
And they're driving fast. So they can legitimately run kids over. That wasn't really a thing before cell phones. Like, people were still looking up. We have a lot of legitimate barriers to making
Sure.
motherhood difficult, but we're
I think
also
that
making
is
it hard for
truly,
ourselves.
yeah, that is truly one of the newer dangers. And when we say the world's not a safer place, because technically it is, it really is. But when that is one of the things I've thought of is like cell phone use while driving is
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think yeah, go ahead, keep talking. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, so yeah, it's like, okay, so moms, they want to contribute, they want to, be successful and financially helpful. So they're on their phones, but then trying to like be there for their kids, and um there's not a lot of firm boundaries, right? And so yeah,
I think
there's
this is the lie
burnout.
though. And you and I have talked about this. This is from
Yeah.
Erica Kosimer. Is that how you say the
Oh,
name, right?
commissar, yeah, commissar.
Commissar,
Yeah, yeah.
Commissar. Okay. Yeah, I just caught some of the letters and made my own last name. Commissar.
Yours is funny.
So she says you can have everything but not all at the same time. And I think that's really telling. And one of the things, any of you that might be thinking of a side hustle at home, working at home with your kids is horrible. It's
It's
horrible.
hard.
And it's really hard. And I've even said I just did an episode about like curbing phone use. And one of the things is like try to stack we're in an immediate culture. Everybody thinks everything has to happen immediately. And one thing I've been toying with is like, no, I really have been shutting down. I've been breaking up my text messages. I don't
Yes.
owe anybody 24/7 access. And I'm pulling back on that in emails and unless something's really dire, can you stack it and do it in the evening? Can you do it while they're napping? Can you do it in the early morning? Or can you do it when you are utilizing some PBS or some screen time and say, you guys are going to watch your program. I'm working. And it's a thing. You have to set those boundaries and you have to be more disciplined than if you
Yeah.
were to walk out of the house in the morning and go to work.
Oh, yeah, it's very hard, especially when your kids are under 3 to juggle that, and to
Oh,
be
yeah.
ultra focused and efficient. That's the other thing is, moms I know you mentioned earlier, it's interesting, like 0 to 6 years, it should be chill because, you shouldn't be, like, stacking all these activities and events. We millennial moms are doing the opposite. One, we feel this, like, unspoken obligation that we need to because of like the illusion of core memories, which I know you've spoken about in your podcast. That's not a real thing. And I love that episode you did. That made me feel better because I didn't even know what the core memory thing was from. I'm so out of the loop with
Inside Out.
these new
Inside
movies. Yeah.
Out.
I hadn't even seen the movie. I
Yeah.
was like, what is this? But all of a sudden I'm seeing my peers talk about like making core memories. And what about just making dinner with your kid in the kitchen? Can't that just be a good memory? Why does it have to be some extravagant, crazy vacation going all out? Everything is all out. Birthday parties, baby showers, gender reveals. It's financially stressful. And I think what's happening is this phenomenon of, well, we already did that last year, so now we got to one up it. And now we have more kids. Let's one up it. Let's one up it. There is no chill in the millennial era. I'm looking for my chill moms
That's
out
but
there.
that
Come at me.
yeah. I think, what I'm trying to do is give moms like a soft permission. I always say you're a grown up. I don't have to give you permission, but that the awareness that you don't have to. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people just are doing things on autopilot. This is what you do. This is what you do. And I feel like the pendulum's starting to swing back to neutral a little bit, very minorly. But I also, if this is you, know that you can pull back at any time.
Yeah.
And Pascal and I did that like abruptly. We went to a $5 Christmas, and I was like, "Bud, I don't need you to spend your money." Like, first of all, he's a
Mm.
boy. He's getting me like, I don't know, some some stupid
Underwear.
some stupid things over the years. Like, or some useless things, you know what I mean? Like a coffee cup, world's greatest mom, and so
You need another
um
mug.
I know. I was like, we do like we were homeschooling. We do a lot of fun experiences. I was like, there's nothing you can get me that I haven't gotten myself. So let's
Right.
just pull back to a thoughtful thing, a couple of $5 gifts. And so we took extravagance down to minimal in one season. Just
I love
no,
that.
just stop doing it. And so I think even if you I can't say this enough. Think back on your own memories. They're rarely the Disney trip. They are rarely the things that these big overboard things, the things that kids remember. The number one thing I see online, and I've seen it hundreds, if not thousands of times, the thing I remember most is my mom came home upset about something or really tired. We didn't have a lot of money. She put like a cut up hot dog, some Triscuits, and some Mandarin orange on a plate, and we could watch a movie together. And that was the best night ever. I loved when my mom was exhausted.
And it cost $1.
And so it was, those are the things kids remember. Anytime I hear a memory, it is always about love. It is never
Yes.
about the event. People might say, oh, Disney was great, but I was crying or I shit my pants and my mom made it okay. Like it was the thing you
Yeah.
remember the most is love and connection. Mostly it happens in the kitchen, I feel like.
Yes, especially if you love cooking and you're teaching them new skills, you see that confidence emerge. Um, is it too late to talk about one more thing I thought of with risk aversion and safety?
Yeah, let's do it. And then let's wrap up because I think like we
Yeah.
definitely need a series.
That's true, that's true. So, okay, one last thing. In the 90s, that's when we really saw this boom of pharmaceutical ads on TV. So,
Mm.
advertising for medication, this was a huge turning point because now this is like if you're watching cable TV and everybody's watching TV for the most part in the 90s, now we're being bombarded with these advertisements, but it's literally ads telling us, the viewer, to ask our doctor for X, Y, and Z. So now all of a sudden it's like, oh, do I have restless leg syndrome? Am I depressed? Am I anxious? I
Mm.
just have to wonder how much of an impact all that those years of subliminal messaging where we're being told about these new made up, not made up, new diseases, new labels, new this, new that. Everything has a magic pill. How does that leave an imprint on us, maybe even a little bit subconsciously in our parenting when I'm worried about this disease and what if he has this label? Whereas I don't really think your generation had that. That wasn't quite a thing yet.
100%. I was just listening to an interview with Rand Paul, and he brought that up, and he said, some of these things that are advertised on TV, there's 5,000 cases a year.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they're being advertised, and there's the whole argument that they're actually not advertising to us, they're advertising to so the channel, the
Right.
network can't talk bad about them. But yeah, it's funny you bring that up because I don't watch regular television. And I happened to see something somewhere, and it was an ad for schizophrenic medication. And I used to work with
Oh, yeah.
schizophrenic people, and I was like, is schizophrenia so common now that we advertise for meds?
Right.
And I also was like, this is weird because I've never met a truly schizophrenic person who would be watching TV and say, "Yes, I'm going to see my doctor about that." So I don't know. Yeah, I think there's all kinds of subliminal message. I mean, we talked about
Yeah.
on your podcast, it's on Instagram now, like, Lenore Skenazy's bit that the world is actually safer, and it's the 24-hour news cycle that just keeps us wrapped up. But I want to
Yes.
talk really quickly before we log
Mm.
off. I want to talk about the personal call you gave me about something that you were curious if you should be freaking out because there was a parking lot incident that a mom was reporting on social media.
Oh,
And I want to
okay.
talk about that for
Yeah.
as a prime example.
Okay, yes.
So
Oh, you
Kat
want me to
calls
tell?
me.
Yeah. Oh,
Kat
you're gonna
calls
tell.
me and she's like, "Okay, I'm freaking out, but I don't think I should be. So can you talk me off the ledge because go ahead."
Okay, so you listeners have probably seen that there's been a lot of hullabaloo about child trafficking happening in parking lots and literally inside of Target,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
So I don't
And this
know
had something to do with
the
a bit
intricacies.
like somebody asked for a dollar, like a dollar bill, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. There's all these different, it's usually like a woman who will approach another, clearly a mom with kids in tow, asking for something, being really adamant, like, no, like, I really need a dollar, like really getting all up in your windshield. And so there's a lot, I noticed there's a lot of influencers talking about how no, this is definitely a case of child trafficking. It's definitely happening in Target, at the supermarket. I'm like, what? Like, are we bringing back child trafficking now? And what you said made a whole lot of sense. They're not going to openly traffic. There's, video surveillance in Target. They're not going to capture your baby so blatantly. But there are moms who really think that this is happening. So now that's another layer of I
well,
can't
I
turn my
think
back
on
for a
this
second.
yeah, I think in this one, it's like the mom was getting into her car and somebody was trying to give her a $5 bill.
Right,
And
right,
then
right.
the $5 bill would be laced with fentanyl. The mom would
Oh,
get knocked out and they could take the kid. It's like the thing. And this is
yes.
like mom sharing this on Facebook, on Instagram. Oh my God, I'm so scared. This woman came up to me. So Kat calls
Right.
me scared and she was like, I'm worried about this. And I was like, no, listen, guys, if this were happening, if somebody trafficked your kid right in front of you in Target, we would know about it. It would be headline on the news. If somebody were handing out dollar bills laced with fentanyl to knock you out so they could take your kids, guys, the National Guard would be on it. Like we
That's
would
very true.
we would hear about it from news outlets. It would be huge all over the place. So these things are urban myths. I don't doubt that moms are I think they're going a little crazy with their hypervigilance. I think they are seeing a person, but I don't think are necessarily making these things up, but I think they're reading too much into like an innocent person walking by or somebody offering to help. And I just don't believe that people are handing out money laced with fentanyl. Like we would know about this. There would be a national warning. There would be all kinds of things like moms, don't go to parking lots. Like,
Right. Yeah. So that definitely talked me off of a ledge because for a second there I was actually thinking like maybe this is happening in Target,
yeah,
and these influencers are
no.
going to tell me I can't be going to Target. Not that I
Talking
really
to
do,
Lenore
but
Skenazy was the best. She talks regularly with the guy who heads up child trafficking, and he was like, "It is never your well-parented kid in Target where there are cameras, where they will lock the store, where they're immediately going to search. No, 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 no. Human trafficking sucks. I don't want any kid trafficked,
right.
but it is kids who are abandoned. They are looking
Mhm.
for people who will not be missed. It is women, you know, drug addicts being sold into prostitution. It is horrific. It's awful. I don't want it to happen, but it's not happening at Target. And this guy has all the stats. It is so overblown as a worry for those of us who like, I mean, obviously, if you live in a terrible neighborhood and you somehow are stuck like in bad circumstances, you want to be aware. But for those of us living in suburbia, going to Costco and Target, it really isn't what this the fear that you should have.
Real quick, is Lenore from New York? I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay. So after our episode aired, and my mom loves everything you have to say, and she made one small thing. She's like, "Well, the reason my mom did the role plays with you, like the Stranger Danger role plays, she's like, I want to tell you a backstory on that. You remember Son of Sam from the 1970s, David
Yeah.
Berkowitz?
Yeah.
He was in the Forest Hills neighborhood killing girls with long brown hair around the time my mom was in Forest Hills, which is a great neighborhood.
Yeah.
So basically, that's where those role plays came into play. So my mom's mom became paranoid because he was right there in the neighborhood, an
Yeah.
actual serial killer who was famous. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. That's valid. That isn't a fake boogeyman. That's a real boogeyman right in your backyard. It is from the 70s, but that left an imprint on parenting when I was born in the 90s. So
Yeah.
we sort of had that culture of, America's Most Wanted and Jean-Benet Ramsey, all those situations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, and don't get me wrong, there's a serial killer. Lock your doors. Keep your kids safe. But we also usually know about a serial killer, right? Like,
That's so true.
I mean, we
It's
had a
so
thing in New
true.
England. They're digging up bodies, like random
Oh
bodies.
my
They
God.
found a whole bunch of them, and I'm like, all right, but
Jeez.
they're not releasing any information. I'm like, we need to know, were these people leaving a nightclub? Were they, you know what I mean? Like, give us some parameters so people can be safe. But I don't think it's, the profiles aren't anything that I would be nervous about. But yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, if there's a crime wave, if there's something, you know what
True.
I mean? I mean, we had the clowns in the white van. Like, yeah, obviously, and that still sticks around. Like, there's a white van watching my house. And
Honestly, a clown in a white van is way scarier than some Son of Sam to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I just, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's
Okay.
log off because we've talked. You guys, as always, rock on. Put your phones down, and Kat and I are just going to continue this conversation. If you are on my email list, absolutely, I'd love to hear feedback. If you have stories of yourself, if you want to even be on the podcast, that'd be awesome. And then you can comment on Spotify. So Spotify is a really cool place to keep comments. I can't look at comments all over the place, but when my producer uploads episodes, she's able to see some of the comments. So if you guys want to contribute to this conversation, again, we're not trying to solve anything here. We're just trying to dig into like, how did it get different? What can we mitigate? How can we do better? And some things we can't. Some things it's cultural. We're stuck in a culture that's in the throes of late stage capitalism, which is hyper individualized parenting, guys. It's hyper individualized parenting hustle, signing your kids up for activities. Those are all late stage capitalism, and we're partaking in the thing we're complaining about. So that's going to be my new rally cry. Like, we're doing it to ourselves. Kat, do you have any parting words?
No, just, I mean, I would love to hear too, just any feedback. If you all resonate with what I've said, or if you have different stories, feel free to find me over at Moms Off the Record Pod and send me a message. I'd love to know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're exploring. And obviously, we're each just one person. We work with moms. We have exposure to a lot of moms, but I'm not claiming to know anybody's one experience here. So,
Same, same,
yeah.
same, same.
All right, guys, rock on. Put your phone down. Bye.